Thank you for having me. I'm Sebastian Serrano. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ripio. We are a cryptocurrency company from South America, and we have our 6 years already. A bit of a background. I'm a nerd. I'm been always a geek from a young age. I grew up in the south of Argentina, in the Patagonia, actually in a farm. And I got in love with technology from an early age. I started programming at 8. And the first time that I got give me 1 second. Okay, I just saw something from the chat, but we'll continue going. So basically, I've been always in love with technology. And at the beginning of the internet in the 90s, I saw it and it was like super interesting to me. And when I was at the end of high school, I started with making an internet service provider for my hometown in Patagonia. And that was an amazing experience, but also something that kind of took me also into building Ripio, and I will get there. But I basically think that this technology can be very transformative to South America and countries like emerging markets. We have a history of constantly having trouble with our currencies. If you have been following the news, on Monday, Argentina dropped its currency in value by 30%. The stock market went 50% down. And this is sadly something that is quite common. I'm over 30, and I saw my country change currency 3 times. Like the currency went to 0 in value. And not only that, we not only have high inflation and poor payment infrastructure, also more than half of the population doesn't have access to banking, which also prevents them to join the online economy. So in end of 2012, I saw Bitcoin and the blockchain technology, and it was kind of like a deja vu to that times with the internet software provider. And it was clear that the thing that had to be done is to start working on building the infrastructure to get access into this technology. So basically, the mission of Ripio is to build the infrastructure so people can access. So if you were an entrepreneur in the 90s, you were building internet service providers and content websites, and so people can access the internet and use it. For the blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies and crypto assets, that infrastructure is building the wallets, the exchanges, the payment processor providers, so people can join this network and then start using it. So that's kind of like what envisioned the company and our mission. And since then, we have been providing access to Latin America. We start from Argentina, which is my home country. I actually founded the company from San Francisco, but always thinking in Latin America. And our first country to serve was Argentina. Right now, we have over 300,000 users. Our main country is Argentina, but I'm currently today in Sao Paulo because our focus for this year is Brazil. And Brazil right now is the country that is growing the most, and we are signing the most users in Brazil. And we also have operations in Mexico, and we are aiming to cover the entire Latin America. We are projecting to get to 500,000 users by the end of the year, to give you kind of a sense of our growth rate. And basically, we want to give access to the online economy to the entire Latin America. And we think this is something that this technology can achieve, because There are many reasons why the half of the population is currently unbanked, but one of them is that it's not cost efficient, and we'll get there more in the rest of the presentation. But basically, the services that we provide, our main products, is the wallet. And the wallet allows people to store assets, crypto assets, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or other cryptocurrencies. Something that is starting to happen, which is kind of part of what we envision for the future, is that it's going to be more and more crypto assets. And one of them, for example, is DAI. DAI is token that has parity with the US dollar. And something that we saw the last few days is that DAI started to trade a lot more volume during the Argentinian last few day crisis. And the volume spiked 20 times and we also saw something similar for Bitcoin. And it's kind of like showing how is our vision is starting to come to place. So the wallet is our main product. That is the retail product for brokerage, and it allows retail people to use and buy and trade these assets. We also have a trading platform, an exchange, where you can, a more sophisticated user or investor that wants to do more active trading, has the tools to do that. There we have more assets than in the wallet. In the last year, we also started to see that there are more institutional investors or high net worth individuals that are getting into this technology. So we started to build an OTC desk that allows to do a different kind of service for funds and people that want to trade larger amounts. And then our newest product and the most innovative is what we call Ripio Credit and RCN, which is starting to use a smart contract technology to give credit to people, and starting to build services on top of this technology. And at the end of the presentation, I will be talking a lot more about how this works, how we are using blockchain and smart contracts to build this product. So in a bit of history, we launched in 2013. We went through an accelerator in San Mateo called Boost VC. Boost is an accelerator that focuses on blockchain technology and sci-fi technologies in the Silicon Valley. The founder is Adam Draper, which is from the Draper family, fourth generation family that does venture capital. And this is something that I think is something that also can give some insights, and maybe some people may have questions. And we were able to do something that is very, I think it's not simple for a company that is from an emerging market, which is get into the Silicon Valley and get investors from the US to fund the company. And I think like there is this is something that we can talk more on. Like if someone has more detailed questions, we can go into that. But basically, something that we realize is that in order to fund a tech company that is at that moment an extremely experimental technology, it requires a kind of investor that we could not find in South America, and it will be very difficult to find them because the VC industry is not so well developed. So something I find myself doing is move into San Francisco, and I was there several months building a network and getting contacts in order to find the first investor. So that basically I think it was necessary sadly to move into the Silicon Valley. I see many entrepreneurs going into the Silicon Valley and try to fundraise in a trip, and I think that is not something feasible. Investors don't like to see a dot. They like to see a trend, and you have to build a relationship over time and show that you can deliver. And so that requires months of work, and moving into a hub where there are good VC and investor network is important to achieve that. So we got into this accelerator. We got our first seed investment, and then there we met Tim Draper, the father of Adam Draper, and he became the first investors in the company. Tim is the first investor in companies like Hotmail, Skype. He has founded Tesla, SpaceX, Baidu, and many big tech companies. Is a legend in the Silicon Valley, and that was very good to then close the next rounds of funding. We did our seed in 2014, and then during that period, we initially started the company doing payment processing, and then we realized that in order to achieve the full vision, we had to do the entire infrastructure. We came before from previous experience doing payment processing, and that and it was easier for us to start from that side, from that product. But very early on, we realized that no one is going to be paying in crypto if there was no one with crypto. So we then in 2014 we started Ripio, which is the wallet, and then it became the main product, and it has been growing exponentially since we launched. And then the rest, like we did a Series A in 2017, and for RCN, which we'll talk later, we did a new type of fundraise, which is at the time was called an ICO for the Credit Network, and for that we raised the equivalent of $37 million through a token sale. Our main investors, as I mentioned before, were Draper. Boost VC was our first, was our accelerator, and we also have funds like Pantera Capital or DCG, which are some of the main funds in the blockchain industry. And you're gonna see that most of the best funded or more important projects in this industry are funded by one of these funds. Actually, I saw a study, and from the top 10 funds in crypto, we have 5 as investors. So as I mentioned before, one of the main things that put us into to build this industry and get into work with this technology is that in Latin America, we not only have very weak currencies and high inflation, also more than half of the population has no access to banking, or if they have access to credit, for example, it's super expensive, and people may end up paying interest rates that are 200-300% in Argentina or Brazil, and this is in part for it has several things to do, but one is that the cost of giving service for a bank that has branches, that have very expensive processes, it makes impossible to give service to the low income population, and because it won't be profitable. So one thing that I think we can start doing with this technology is lowering the cost of giving service and allowing people to get access into the online economy and be able to send and receive money and pay as simple and easy and global as it's like to send a message. Right now we live in a world where you can WhatsApp anyone or send a text, an instant message to anyone in the world, and you can like get access to a big percent of the world population. But if you want to try to do that and to have like an economic transaction with someone that is far away and online is nearly impossible for the mass majority of the population. So we think that this technology can really start changing that. And something that, for example, is starting to happen with our app is that we have many users that emigrated from Venezuela that are buying crypto to us and are sending money home through Bitcoin. And this is the only way to do it in a way that they have low cost and also the guarantee that the funds get there. So we're estimating that at least there are $2 million per day that are being transferred to Venezuela with Bitcoin today to help their families. And this has become the main way to send money back home. So, and this is all feasible because of the underlying technology that I mentioned several times, which is the blockchain. So I think that this world has there is a lot of boost right now. It's going to be even more boost around it. And like things like Libra from Facebook is also becoming even more of an issue and a subject to discuss. But many people doesn't really understand what it is or on how it works. So to give a brief explanation about what it is I think the easiest way to do it is to think that it's a technology very similar to the internet. The internet is a network for communication that is completely decentralized. There are thousands of nodes that we call routers. That's the metaphor for the nodes of the internet that send packages. The blockchain network, it has a type of node and it's supported by thousands of computers around the world, that basically the work is to work as validator of transactions and to store the transaction history. And these nodes basically have a database of the entire transaction history of the network. And we call that the metaphor for the nodes is called miners, which I don't think is a really good metaphor, but basically the blockchain is kind of like a spreadsheet. Is a kind of like a public service that is supported by this network of thousands of nodes around the world that store all the transactions and validate every transaction. And one characteristic of this gigantic spreadsheet is that anyone is able to write into the spreadsheet and have and make transactions into it, but no one can alter or change any record that has been added into the blockchain. And if someone wanted to alter any transaction and change a record, then they will have to hack more than half of the networks, of the nodes of the network, and also every transaction has a proof of work, which is a computational proof that took time and energy to do, and all of them are chained together. So if someone wanted to alter an old record, they not only had to hack this network, they will have to recalculate the entire proof of work. And today, with the amount of computing network that is behind the blockchain, that will cost millions of dollars to try to change a transaction, and that also will be extremely feasible. Will be visible that is being done. So it makes uneconomical try to alter any register of the blockchain, and this technology brings to the internet memory, which is something that it didn't have before. Like before, all the information that was stored in the internet, it was on private servers. So your data is in the Facebook servers or Google servers, and the blockchain gives a way to store data that is decentralized and is public, and it's not in one person or one entity or one organization control, is distributed. And the first application for this technology, kind of like the first application for the internet was the email. So the first application of the blockchain technology is to make Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is the first cryptocurrency, it's the oldest one, and it's the highest in market cap. And basically it's the first currency, the first form of money that is native to the internet. And this is part of a big trend on humanity, which is that every software is eating everything, as we'll say Andreessen. And Bitcoin is basically money becoming software. And as money is becoming software, sorry, again, neither. And as money is becoming software, Bitcoin is basically giving money something that it never had before, which is behavior. And every Bitcoin transaction is in fact a script that runs, and it's a program that executes, and every transaction is in essence is code that's being executed, and this brings behavior to money that never had before. For example, with Bitcoin, we can make a wallet that we can code it to have more than one owner and have 3 signers, and require that 2 signers, at least 2 people sign to make a transaction. And this is the first one, and is the most widely distributed. It has been built and coded in a way that is scarce, and the issuance is always decreasing. So there's going to be a limited number of Bitcoins, and this scarcity is what it gives value, and it's making it a very good store of value. And the max amount of Bitcoin that is going to be is millions, and that is why the more people that is using it, and the more people that is buying it, it's becoming more scarce, and it rises in value, and it has been following a trend of increasing in value since its inception. But it has some restrictions, and then many other cryptocurrencies has started to appear, and there are many more crypto assets that are using this technology, the blockchain technology, and we will see more and more in the future. The next one that is that's very important is currently the second one in market cap of cryptocurrencies is Ethereum. And I think it's very important to talk about it because Ethereum may not be as good as a store of value because of their how it's issued, and it will always issue coins, and it wasn't built to be a very good store of value, but it has been built to work on one of the restrictions of Bitcoin, which is Bitcoin is not Turing complete. Turing was a mathematician that defined the computation, and not every program can be right on the Bitcoin scripting language, on the programming language of Bitcoin. But Ethereum is. So Ethereum has a Turing complete language. So any program can be coded in the Ethereum programming language, which is called Solidity. So any program that you imagine, you can code it in Ethereum. And this allows the something that we're starting to see appearing, and something that we're also working on, which is smart contracts. And it's the first platform for coding, making contracts code. And it's part of this, also this trend that I mentioned, that everything is becoming software. And one thing that is also going to become software is contracts. There are at least the dry part of contracts. A contract is paper usually that says, if this happens, we'll do this thing, and puts restriction. It's kind of like a recipe for conditions and defining behaviors. And part of that can be encoded and make it software. And Ethereum has become the network, the cryptocurrency network for smart contracts. Currently, the main usage of this one is to issue other tokens and start representing different assets on top of the Ethereum network. There are, for example, games like CryptoKitties, which is a video game that has all their programming in the Ethereum blockchain, or for example, what we're doing with credit, which is called RCN, where we are thinking, well, how a credit contract will look, and how we can encode a credit contract in the Ethereum network. But also other users ways to use it is to make tokens like ERC20s. These ones are being used also as a way to fundraise and a way to get access to capital markets in a way that is completely global. So I think like the blockchain with smart contracts is going to make the world a lot more efficient and transparent, and it's going to make a lot less expensive to operate and to transact between people. I think in this also the smart contracts will be used for identity, will be used for supply chain. We're gonna see more things into credit, and there's gonna be more and more companies joining and starting to use this technology. I think what Facebook entering this market to make its own cryptocurrency, which may work or not, is just the beginning. I think there's gonna be many other companies starting to create their own tokens and ways to represent value. And I think this is going to be from very big, large companies to very small ones. We have seen examples, for example, a small winery from Mendoza in the wine region in Argentina created a token to represent bottles of wine. and they use it basically to pre-sell their next vintage. And they created like 50,000 tokens. They sold that tokens globally, and with the funds that they got, they financed the production, and they are now exchanging that tokens for the bottles of wine that have already been done. And this small winery found a way to finance themselves in a very cheap way, and it's just a small winery from Argentina. But there are many other projects from small to big entering the market, and we will see more and more people joining and starting to innovate with this technology. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up here, and I'm gonna start taking questions so we have more time to answer things. You can follow me in social media as sserrano44. You can find Ripio as Ripio app everywhere. You can drop me an email also on Sebastian@ripio.com. And yes, so let's see if we can take some questions. Will this webinar recording be available? I think it will. Yeah, the recording is available. So how you handle legal things? So regulation is something that is under development. Let's say, like, regulation always comes later after the facts. We have always worked with regulators into explain them the technology, and the worst thing that can happen is that regulators regulate the industry without knowledge. And I think that our main work on this, it has to be to educate regulators so they can properly manage the risk that it has. And there has been different responses depending on each country that we operate, on how the regulators see this technology. We have very good success in Argentina, and we have so far a very open to innovation government that is very open to innovation. Something a bit similar is in Brazil. Other countries that are more restrictive is Mexico, for example. Mexico is being extremely restrictive to this technology, and I think something that is very important is to show the government okay, you click. 1 second. All right. So something that I think is very important is that we show the potential to grow the economy, to make people's life better. And one of the things that is going to make this technology is that the next capital market is going to be the internet. Something that is going to be open is that access to financial assets and financial services is going to become something that is completely global. And the countries that embrace this technology sooner will have an edge into allow their entrepreneurs or the startups or companies to get funded or get access to credit or like serve more people globally. And if we can show governments and regulators that there is a lot of potential in this technology, usually the ones that have more to lose to this technology, they focus on the potential issues like and abuses of this technology, and I think we had to show the potential to change that is good, and that will make our societies better. And at the same time, I think there is ways to regulate and put controls that minimize the risks, and that should be our work. So let me see if I'm trying to find how to open the Q&A box. 1 second. Okay, I have it here. Okay, so in the question from Sebastian Pereira, so there are different assets that are crypto. You have assets that are volatile, and like Bitcoin, which while it's volatile, it has potential, always been growing. Well, not entirely always, but if you look at the trend over the years, it has become a store of value and considered like the digital gold. And you also have tokens that are one-on-one with dollar, that are called stable coins, that will give access to a store of value that is more stable, that can be used for commerce. And we are seeing more and more usage of these assets. We even saw the last week that we got a lot more transaction volume for DAI, which is a digital dollar as a stable coin. And regarding the question about the transaction throughput, the blockchain right now has, before it had before Bitcoin a few years ago only had 7 transactions per second capacity. Right now that has been double with some improvements into the blockchain. But also there are many innovations that are being done as a second layer. For Bitcoin, for example, there is a Lightning Network, which is a second layer that allows to settle transactions later. And that is giving a lot more throughput to the network. And we're gonna see more of these innovations in every blockchain. And so far, we're seeing that for the current usage, there is enough throughput capacity, and we'll see more innovations in the future that will allow even more capacity. So let's take another question. Do I understand correctly that you had a social mission for bringing blockchain-based finance to those who don't have access to traditional finance mechanism? Yes. So I think we're always thinking is to use this technology to get more people access to get access to financial services, and to be able to have access to the online economy. If you look at the US or like developed countries, 15 to 20% of all online retail is of all retail is online. And if you look at Latin America, it varies between countries into 1.5% to 3%. And one of the main things that is impeding that is that people doesn't have access to ways to pay online or transfer funds and money between people in a way that they can do it through the internet. So we think that this is a big opportunity and also a way to bring social good. What is a good way for a startup based in Brazil to raise capital in Brazil? So, Brazil has a decent seed and a small VC industry, but there is a good seed investor network. I think for a Brazilian startup, you can work with many of the local accelerators or find local angels that can fund your startup and get you off the ground, at least for building your MVP or your initial versions of your product. And something that I think is interesting, and you can look into this technology, is that you can find ways to build an asset that represents or is built into your product that can access investors everywhere in the world. And we're gonna see more of this into the future with a new type of token that is going to start becoming more popular. That is called that are called STOs, security tokens. And there are two ways to make them. One is to make STOs and sell them yourself through like a website and like fund and fundraise for your project through your network. And a second one that we may be able to help, and there's gonna be many exchanges doing that, which is called initial exchange offering, where you issue a token that is associated with the economics of your startup, and then you issue that through an exchange, and people can buy it through or sell it through an exchange. This is something that is very new, and regulation is just evolving, but it's something that is going to allow startups to get access to global financial markets right away and get liquidity for the investors very early on. There are different ways to do them, especially in the economics, and this is something that is also many people experimenting in different ways to make tokens that represent value into a project. Some are more traditional, like just representing equity. Others are more of like a economic incentive into the usage of the network. For example, you can make a token that is required to use for your service, and you make a limited amount of them, and when people want to use your service, they have to buy them. If there is a lot of people buying them, as there is a limited amount of them, the value of the token rises. And this is something that some people experimenting with, and many other models. And we'll see a new type of science, which people call crypto economics, find ways to represent economic value through tokens. Did you have problems with regulators? So far, we have not had any major problems with regulators. The ones that are more tricky to work with is the the regulators from Mexico, and the current regulations from Mexican regulators are extremely strict to cryptocurrency companies, to the point that you basically had to operate as two companies to apply to be able to work in the country, one for the fiat part and another one for the crypto part. They're imposing a lot of things that are making it expensive to operate in Mexico, and I think it's something that they're going to lose. Is a big opportunity on develop a good, strong startup ecosystem for this technology, which is for me sad, but so far we didn't have anything major. Next question. What are important criteria to consider if there is a viable use of blockchain tech for your business or industry? So there's a lot of people that wants to put blockchain into their projects or products, and because of the buzz that is around it. I think this technology works best for helping people collaborate when there could be no trust. So the blockchain is a public record where you can put information that is never going to be able to be changed, and it's going to be, and all records are going to be immutable. So it makes sense to use this technology when you want to use it to notarize something, to put a record that's never going to change. Like in supply chain, you may want to put like every step a product has gone through, and that no one can change that after the fact if there has been problems or issues. So I will consider this technology for that purposes. One is to make markets, one is to make markets and to like represent value. Other usage of this technology is to like just make records that are immutable and like certify that a document existed at a moment in time, or that or leave a record of some interaction between different parties. Hope that helps. Next question, what if somebody create a new coin with a limited number, but it's not distributed like Bitcoin? Then when people start using it, its value increase? And what if it's not encrypted? So there are many experiments. Like if you go into any website with coins by market cap, you're gonna see many projects that are copying Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies that have different ways to issue them and distribute them. And this is something that is being experimented a lot. There are encrypted and not encrypted coins, and there are many economists studying what gives value and how to try to predict value or define value for a cryptocurrency. Some people believe that the speed is something important, as before, like, and the more interactions there are, the more transactions that exist, the more value a coin will have in the future. Some other people follow different models. There are other models called, for example, the stock to flow, which the property that you're looking at is the scarcity. So how is the flow of issuance of that new coin? How many are created over time? And then as the flow gets restricted, then the coin increases in value. And I think this is stock to flow has been one of the best models to describe the value of Bitcoin. There is people that think that velocity is not very important for this technology because as transactions are nearly instant, there is very little friction. And then some other people think like the value is derived by the community for how many people is using the coin, and that brings value on like follow something like McAfee, and where the more people into the network, the more value has the coin. But this is all things that are being studied right now, as this is all very new. It depends on how you build it and how it gets used. I think the most important thing is to build something that is useful and that impacts a lot of people, and then you will be able to find ways to monetize and to increase value of that. Next question: how you monetize a DApp? We'll need some more background on exactly how is the DApp, but basically for the rest of people, a DApp is called a distributed application. So a use of this technology of blockchain, especially Ethereum, is to construct services that are basically decentralized. So you can create a software program, upload it to the Ethereum network, and it will live in the network as a living code that is in the inside the Ethereum network, and people can transact and and use it. And one of the ways to use these contracts and these services is to what are called distributed applications. And then here I think the community of Ethereum has put itself a lot of restrictions into how to monetize or how to interact with their users. Most of these are web apps. So if you have a token that is associated with the application, and that token is required to use it, it's a way to monetize it. You have the all good advertisement flow of revenue, and I think in the future, and the letter D is going to disappear, and these are going to become just applications. So I think it's better just to think as these are apps, and how you monetize an application, and you have the old models, and you can think new models, but I wouldn't restrict me so much. Then, well, so we have clarification. So next question says something, I will translate it. What do I say to people that is afraid of cryptos because they don't have the support of a central bank? I think like, the central banks in Latin America have such a poor performance that it may be better that they don't have a central bank. But besides the shock, what is important is to explain how it works. And for example, for Bitcoin, that it has a limited amount, and that is based on math, and there's never going to be more than 21 million. And then you explain for transferring funds to that is completely global, that is native to the internet. And it just makes sense that it's going to be a currency for the internet. And the fact that it's never going to be more than 21 million, and that the supply is restricted, and it's restricted by math, that helps understand people that is something like a digital gold. And then that's usually what I talk about. Next question. I wanted to ask about sharing and selling computing power through blockchain, and if you can explain your view from both feasibility and commerce point view. I know there are blockchain startups that are selling computing credits from the minor labs, animators, call them. I think this is one of the usage of this. The main challenge into build this to build this kind of network where you sell computing power is it's a mathematical one. Right now the ways, so basically the question is the issue on these networks and to sell computing power is called proof of computing. How do I prove? How do we prove that the node actually did the work, and that is called the proof of computing. And today the cryptography to be able to, for a node to validate that a node in the network actually did the work and is asking for the reward after have done the computations that it bid for is not fully developed. I had to leave this office in 2 minutes. So far the cryptography for that is only for the plus operation. I think it's gonna happen, but today the main issue to build that and to don't have fraud in such a network is to be able to have a good way to prove that the entire computation has been done. I hope that didn't go too technical, but it's something that is going to start happening more and more in the future. And I think we are done right now. Thank you for your time and for having me.